Welcome to Brain Tech Support Live. If you've never been to Brain Tech Support Live, we talk about having a human brain. That human brain can throw up a lot of human experiences, like thoughts and images and emotions, physical sensations. And sometimes we judge those human experiences as wrong and bad. And then we create a lot of struggle and suffering for ourselves when we do that. And we often then spend a lot of time trying to fix and control those human experiences instead of living our life. And that creates more fear and frustration for us. And so at Brain Tech Support Live, we talk about how to live our lives instead of how to hate and judge and try to control human brain stuff. Wessel, thank you. How are you doing? I hope you're doing well as well. Mundo, hello. Graham, it's great to see you. I hope you're doing well. Good morning. Speaking of physical sensations there was a discussion over on a meditation group on itching. And the question just was, somebody asking, somebody new to meditation, like, oh, if I get an itch while I'm meditating, should I itch it? And this, of course, sparked a large number of responses, like probably hundreds of messages, and very, very split along itch or don't itch groups. Like if there's ever a civil war among meditation groups, it'd probably be over itching. I'm certainly in the camp of do not itch. It's really useful, so especially if you've struggled with brain stuff, it can be really useful to see how an itch is very similar to what our brains are doing with, like whether it's intrusive thoughts, intrusive images, earworms, other strange physical sensations. Eye floaters and swallowing stuff and all that kind of stuff. It can be really useful to explore meditation and just everyday life and learning how to not itch. It is that same kind of, there's this uncomfortable thing there, and it just promises us, hey, if you go and fix this right now, you'll feel better, you'll feel great. But what's often the case, especially if you're sitting to meditate, and you react to it, you itch it, then something else comes up, and then something else, and then something else. And it's very difficult not to keep reacting to it. Learning how to not react to a physical sensation is a practice we can then apply to learning not to react to a mental sensation. It's really fascinating to explore a whole world of meditation beyond learning how to not itch. And so I'd say that as well. If you're into meditation, and so if you haven't explored meditating without moving, meditating without like itching would be included in that. There's a whole other sport there still to go. So try that out. Yeah, if you've never sat down to meditate without moving. Russell, it's good to hear you're doing good. So welcome. Rostam, hey. Jagoda, it's good to see you. I said, I wonder, am I a dog or a cat person? I'm an animal person. The animals are wonderful. I mean, if I was gonna have a pet, I would probably, so I'm gonna go to the kennel and we're gonna rescue a pet. So I would probably go there to rescue a dog, but I may leave with who knows what animals. That would be very difficult. But yeah, definitely start with let's go rescue a dog. And then who knows, maybe the dog already has like a cat that is its best friend, and a porcupine and a raccoon and a rabbit and two more dogs. And so it would blossom from there. Yeah. Yeah, the teddies. Yeah, he said I used to get intense headaches when the earworm was rampant. Exactly. It was so useful to recognize there's just uncomfortable experience. And so they really do all get clustered together. It could be an uncomfortable thought or an uncomfortable emotion, but that's really not that different from an uncomfortable physical sensation. Kimberly, thank you so much for the donation. And how's it going? It is going well. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for the support. Yeah, it really helps. I appreciate it. And Rostam, yeah, thank you to you too. Oh, and the cute cat. I appreciate it. I really appreciate the support. Thank you, everybody. West Texas Garden, a wave to you. Mud, welcome. I said, what if ignoring and avoiding stuff in your body leads to numbing and not noticing stuff? There's a school of thought that meditation can increase a freezing, numbing response. That, because even with like the itch, so I was talking over on Threads, so I'm on Threads, about exploring the itch. Like and so it's interesting, it's not numbing it, it's not getting rid of it. I would describe it more like soaking in a bath, because that's actually what would happen. I was explaining this on one of the recent meditation sits on the Discord. I had an itch because I think there was actually like something like a hair or something was on the side of my face, and so I was like, of course, I was like, I'm not gonna move, and the itch just seemed to grow. It was like my whole side of the body eventually became like right itching, like kind of like my neck was like twitching. Yeah, it's okay to be in it, because I think sometimes our response, and maybe even what's become our automatic response to emotions, to physical sensations, is this is bad, don't feel it. And when we explore practice like this, it's actually seeing how we can have the big feeling and not have to do all of the stuff we would typically do, all the judging, the controlling, like, I've got to do something with it. Across the board, often there's a lot of experiences where our compulsions are just this like cut off, like, this feeling is going to get big, let's cut it off. And so, yeah, could be interesting to explore. Yeah, what's it like to not move and not get rid of the feeling, not numb it? Margaret, hello. Said you had a busy weekend in the garden and you're off to sleep soon. Yeah, hey, after a busy week in the garden, enjoy some rest. Russell said, I have a question. When I catch myself doing compulsions, I often don't know what normal behavior is instead of doing compulsions. How fixing is too much fixing and how much fixing is okay. This is why I find, right, approaches like acceptance commitment therapy, values-based approaches really helpful. It was useful for me to know what my intention was and know the valued action I wanted to be doing in a situation. So if I caught myself doing anything that I didn't want to be doing, it wasn't, oh no, like this is a compulsion, we got to fix it, or this is a bad thing. It was about, oh, I'm going off in a direction I didn't want to go in. The direction I want to go in is over there. I'm going to go over there. So I think of it as like wandering in the wilderness. There will absolutely be times where you choose to wander off the path, where you go, oh, I really wanted to go up that mountain over there, but I see this really rare and beautiful orchid over here, and I want to go and say hello to it. I'm going to walk over here and do that. And I'm aware that I'm going in a different direction than I planned, but I run a rare wildflower blog, and this is something I'm interested in. This is also something I value. It's the intentionality of it. That's what then helps us quickly bring ourselves back to where we want to go. Yagota, you often talk about checking, controlling, and coping. Could you elaborate on coping and give a few examples? I'm not sure I know what you mean by coping. Okay, so coping is replacing a feeling. Coping is, I feel too anxious to go to that thing I wanted to go to that I like really care about, and so I'm going to go and do this thing to get rid of that feeling. Like I'm just gonna yeah, I'd rather like stay home and watch some Netflix alone. And where we see that it's a compulsion because if that person then is upset that they're not connecting with people more, that they aren't building relationships, you can see how the brain just threw up a feeling, which is then going to get in the way of doing the thing they want to do. And then they stop. They're like, oh, I've got to replace this feeling first. Another example would be often procrastinating. Involves a lot of coping. So if somebody is like, oh, I need to like watch some YouTube videos to like calm down after this experience I had before I do the thing I want to do. And then, it's 2-3 hours later and they're still watching the YouTube videos. They still haven't replaced the feeling. So yeah, you can also say like coping is a type of controlling. You could look at all of the compulsions as a type of controlling. But yeah, coping, particularly when we're like, ooh, this feeling is bad, I must replace this feeling. Bissle Fresh said, how do we decide if we like something or not based on feelings? I don't know. Do you have to know if you like it? Liam, hey. Oh, yeah, yes. Can working out, cold showers, meditation, and general healthy habits become compulsions? Absolutely. People do tons of, right? Because again, it's this controlling, especially if you're like, oh, I have this bad thing and I must fix it by doing all these special rituals. They're going to prevent the bad thing. Yeah, cold shower is one I often suggest to people right now. Yeah, if you've already learned how to do cold showers, then you can level up to the next step, which is learning how to enjoy a hot shower. If you can't enjoy a hot shower mindfully, then yeah, I like a cold shower is not going to fix anything. A cold shower could be a great support for like kind of shocking us out of doing lots of compulsions in our heads, and we'll be very in our body. And a cold shower, a cold bath, an ice bath can be great for learning how to sit in uncomfortable feelings and sit in them. But we also have to learn those skills without that extra support. And so learning how to have a hot shower mindfully is a really great exercise. Lily Tilk said, I hope you're having a good day. I said, do you consider someone having OCD to be neurotypical? I think like somebody using a term like neurodivergent or neurotypical, I think is it's a very personal, like that's up to the person. So I would say actually, yeah, like you asking that question there, I do not consider anybody else any either neurotypical or neurodivergent. Like I would consider them whatever they consider themselves. Oh, and then yeah, I see down below you actually said neurodivergent. Yeah, and so yeah, so you meant to say like, do I consider somebody with OCD neurodivergent? Yeah, so I would see it as again, like I was saying there, yeah, like if they see themselves, if they use it in that way, then I would use it in that way. But if they don't, then yeah, I don't. I'm not. I wouldn't be categorizing somebody with a label like that separate from how they would use it. The Teddy's channel. So can you talk about anger and frustration when it comes to intrusive thoughts? Anxiety isn't a problem for me anymore. It's more anger and annoyance and frustration. Yeah, Graham. So it really helped me to see that yeah, anger and frustration were part of the kind of like controlling like set of compulsions, especially if we're expressing anger, because we're basically saying, oh, this thing should be a different way. So I like to look at in frustration. So I'd say two things. One, I like to look at what I'm trying to control in that moment. So there's probably maybe some kind of fear if I dig into it, like, oh, because if that person doesn't do it this particular way, it's going to lead to this bad thing that I don't want to see happen. And so in those situations, sometimes it's learning how we can articulate what we want to see. Because if we haven't expressed, how to do things well, then we can't be surprised at all if they aren't being done that way. So yeah, sometimes being able to articulate. But also, I find it really useful to see with frustration, anger, that if there's just lots of things in our life we don't control right now, so we've often had control taken away, or there's been a lot of unexpected things happen, there's a lot of uncertainty, then we're going to be looking for some control. And so it could be very natural that we don't have a lot of control in one area of our lives. So then in another area, we get really frustrated really quickly and we want to control things. And it's helped me to see, oh, that's just my brain looking to get some control because there's this thing I don't control right now. And so then it's very helpful for me to notice that anger, that frustration coming up, and actually see, oh, this isn't about the thing I'm really angry about right now for whatever reason, I don't know. This is actually just me looking for some control because I've lost control in some other area. And actually that's the area where I want to make changes or I want to set, articulate what I want. Enjoy giving a hug to frustration. Akas said, how to deal with your brain automatically reassuring yourself repeatedly 24/7. So I'd be curious at exactly what you mean about automatically reassuring yourself. But if it's going 24/7, I would say then we just want to, you just want to go to bed for a little bit of time. But yeah, when you say automatically reassuring yourself, what does that mean? Mud, he said, having found moving a way to get more into body sensations, stillness makes me much more likely to run away from them and more likely to be in my head. Then go for a movement. There are so many meditation practices that involve movement. It's even one of the things, I really like a practice of just sitting, but it's very common in a just sitting practice that actually there'll be movement. And I really like to use that in my practice. Actually, bowing before is a way that I use to be aware of my body and really get into my body, but also the kind of tradition where I learn silent illumination, just sitting meditation, also does a lot of walking meditation that's quite fast. And the point of the fast walking meditation is to have the body moving so quickly that you kind of need to be aware of your body rather than in your head. And so, yeah, finding what, and so the reason, even that's a very traditional Zen school. The reason they do that is because, when we're still, it's so easy to get in our heads. And that's, even understood for a monk. Use movement. That's a totally welcome practice. Blooper 785, I hope you're doing well too. Sarabjot, he said, do you think caffeine fuels an overactive mind if you're having caffeine equivalent to 8 to 10 cups of coffee per day? So actually, what I wouldn't look at there is the caffeine, but the fact that if somebody's having 8 to 10 cups a day, they're probably chasing a feeling. And they're also not pausing to enjoy the coffee. Although if you're having 8 to 10 cups of delicious coffee each day, mindfully, power to you. But I would look more at the practice, where if somebody's doing that, that suggests a compulsive practice that's probably going to lead to them chasing more feelings and chasing more solutions, right? Because also 8 to 10 cups suggests they're also hating on a feeling. So like, ooh, this doesn't feel right. I don't feel alert enough. I don't feel myself enough. I got to fix it. So I would look at that, because if you're doing that, then yeah, the brain's going to go, oh, should we fix feelings that don't feel right? I can think of more things that are wrong. And then the brain will just be like throwing up more wrong stuff. And we're like, oh yeah, I got to fix that. I got to fix that. How can I find a cup of coffee that's going to fix that feeling? So yeah, the logic of what the person is doing there, that I would say is a bigger source of a racing mind. This morning we don't have coffee. We have mate, yerba mate with, so this is amazing. I'm gonna keep this, right? Of course, so I live with like 2-3 bags and a jean jacket that has really great pockets. And so me taking on an item, like a thing, is a very mindful process. Like I have to really be convinced something is a great device to buy it or have it in my life. But I will totally keep this. Can you see all this? So this is the kind of straw that's used for yerba mate, but this would be great for like green tea, any kind of tea, any herbal tea, because you can just put everything in here loose. Yeah, you can see there's there's a lot. So there is all the yerba mate in here, which ends up being you can see there's actually like a lot of bits to it. But then you drink it out of this great straw, which is also has this little separation here at the tip, which prevents the tip of the straw from getting too hot. So you can sip it without getting all of this like seeds and leaves and sticks and all of that kind of stuff in it. Amazing. And of course, bringing this up in relation to the coffee question, tons of caffeine in mate, or whatever the stimulant, tea stimulant is. And I'm not worried about my racing mind. Kareem said, can watching random YouTube videos after a hardworking day be considered coping or bad mental health practice? The thing I would look at there is just that it's intentional. Because there absolutely are. Like we may really enjoy watching videos. And is it about like you want to watch the videos, or do you feel like, oh, I have to watch videos because I had this bad day and I need to like fix it with the videos now? Because that's what I would look at. Blooper 785 said, how do I proactively rest, relax? I find myself doing compulsion, so rest, relaxation makes me more exhausted. And so actually this even, Kareem, this is relevant to what you just mentioned too. Because yeah, sometimes if we're just like scrolling through videos again and again and again, are we really relaxing? Or are we just continuing maybe some of the compulsions that we felt we maybe had to do at work throughout the day? So blooper, so one I find is starting to explore how to do nothing and learning how to relax. And recognizing that our brains, we have these incredible superpowers that are like laser vision. And our laser vision is just like full blast all the time. But then what happens is if we have full blast laser vision all the time, we can burn up a lot of things. We can burn up people around us. We can burn up our rest and relaxation because you're like, I want to lie down, and you just have lasers shooting out of your eyeballs. The ceiling falling in on top of you because of that. So yeah, learning how to turn it off is great. So at first, proactively setting times to rest and recognizing this is starting to teach the brain how to stop and slow down. So at first, you may set a time to rest, maybe only like 20 minutes. And we want to practice doing nothing, but recognizing that'll be very difficult to do nothing at first if the brain's so used to always going. So finding an activity that'll help you just wind it down and being very aware of, hey, we're winding down here. We don't have to do that. So it might be something like going for a walk, or doing some kind of activity around the house that is about kind of finishing something, putting something away, not needing to like fix and start something. Like maybe sweeping the floor. So gently doing some kind of activity, and while you're doing it, noticing the brain go, this person needs a problem to fix. Quick, I'll think of this. What about this? We should fix this. Let's do this. And just letting it know, like if you had a kid there beside you, who's like, let's do a thing. Come on, we gotta do a thing. Let's go, let's go. You can think, no, we're not doing that now. We don't have to do anything else. Setting a period of time to start, and then gradually increasing that period of time. Because you may notice if you start with 20 minutes, it's going to take you that whole 20 minutes just for the brain for a few brief seconds to start to settle down. And so always starting to incorporate a kind of ramp down into your rest. So if we're going to take an hour to rest, okay, that first 20 minutes is, hey, I've got to show the brain to shut down the factory. This is also something everybody can do before bed, especially if you notice you're doing lots, you're like watching lots of things, scrolling lots of things, thinking about lots of things, planning lots of things, and you expect you're just gonna go to bed. No, the brain is like, you got the brain, all of the machines in the factory working well, they're gonna wanna keep going. So how do you start to shut down the factory? Put things away. Let the brain know, hey, you're really an amazing brain. You're so incredible at these superpowers. But now it's all done. And we're putting it away. And we'll come back to it tomorrow. But right now it's done. We're resting. Enjoy starting to have some rest and putting the superpowers away. Leslie said, a follow-up question. My girlfriend is wondering how she could best support me or react when I'm getting hooked by, for example, fear. She wants to help but doesn't know how. Any tips? I would ask you, how would you like her to help? It can be difficult, right, when we see somebody we care about wanting reassurance. Because our immediate reaction, of course, coming from a place of care is like, I will fix it. I will take care of you. I'll get rid of the problem. But yeah, if you want to work on not checking for reassurance, if you want to work on not needing to fix and get rid of that feeling, what would you like her to do? What support would you find helpful for doing what you want to do? Yeah, Eric said, I seem to be struggling with the idea of being stuck with a thought or feeling. I know this is common, and you previously talked about learning how to not engage in them. But sometimes when I sit with the thoughts, I'm not sure if I'm still actually engaging with them or not. But then you see how even asking this is that fear, right? Am I gonna do recovery wrong and get stuck with these feelings? It's the stuck fear often goes along with I've got to get this right because I've got to have the right way to get rid of this stuff, and I don't want to be stuck with it, and I don't want it there in the future. One thing you can start to look at, so when somebody brings up the stuck fear, I always like to ask them, are there other things in life where you don't like to get stuck, where you would do a lot of things to make sure you don't get trapped? And think really broadly, a lot of it we'll see as quite normal. So for instance, one of the things I noticed around this was that I would often kind of be afraid of getting stuck in kind of where I was sitting, or I would be afraid of getting stuck with just an uncomfortable feeling. So if I went to a movie, for example, a theater, anything like that, I'd be trying to get everything right before, I can't eat that because what if I have an upset stomach before the movie starts and I'm trapped, I'm stuck. I shouldn't drink too much. What if I need to use the toilet? I better go to the toilet a couple times. And then checking, does it feel like I need to go? It kind of feels like I need to go. And then going and being I didn't need to go. And then, and then even when I finally would get to the seat, like needing to check over and over again, like, oh, is this comfortable? Oh no, what if I'm going to be uncomfortable and then I'll be in an uncomfortable position and I can't watch pay attention to the movie. All of this fixing that goes on in our lives around the fear of what if I get stuck with a bad thing. So just starting to look kind of more broadly at it and just seeing, are there opportunities to practice making it okay to get stuck? And so then you do things like I would go into a movie theater and go, no, like I'm gonna eat whatever I wanna eat. Yeah, if I have to like get up and leave, I'll do it. And I'm gonna sit down in this chair at the movie theater, and when I sit down, I'm not gonna move. And so just exploring, there are fun little activities like that. We start to explore that stuckness fear more. Keshav said, I always fear that something will go wrong or someone important will not be happy if I live the way I want and face the situation if something happens. But I do not want to control situations. Okay, Keshav, can you explain your question a bit more? I'm not sure I know what to respond to there. Ona said, if my partner is not practicing mental fitness and that causes problems in the relationship, what is your advice? Oh, I don't, I think that's very normal, right? That's very, very normal. So I don't have any particular advice specific to that. That's, what makes you, well, actually the first thing I would ask is is there something that you both want to talk about? But being aware, right? Just it's very difficult to control somebody else. And trying to control somebody else can get us into a lot of compulsions ourselves. At the same time, there will be experiences we have with a partner where they're doing something that actually is really not helpful for us or healthy for us. But finding ways to have those conversations with compassion for everybody. Because if we don't want to get caught up in trying to control the other person, because they won't like that, and also it'd be really unhealthy for us too. So finding that way to have a conversation, very much what relationships are about, eh? Lily, he said, is despairing over OCD a compulsion? I find myself obsessing over a full recovery and despairing over how I'm never going to be normal or live a full life, which feels unacceptable. Yeah, this is one of the reasons I find it so important to make mental health about what we want to grow and build. Like I would say one of the major errors we made as a society was approaching mental health from an illness perspective. It would have been way more helpful to approach it from a physical fitness type of approach, right? Where we don't, right? If you don't know how to swim, you don't get labeled with a drowning disorder, even though drowning, very, very biological. If you're going to swimming classes, we're not like, oh, like, is there something wrong with you? No, we're like, I want to be a swimmer. And we label it around the skill we're building, as opposed to, oh, you are one of those drowning disorder people. If we had approached physical fitness based only on a problem, like if you wanted to sign up for a gym, you had to get diagnosed with a weakness disorder, nobody would want to work out. Physical fitness is a well-researched, well-documented, evidence-based approach to taking care of health. It is one of the best medical interventions. But we don't make you go to the gym with a doctor. Had we approached physical fitness as illness first, it would also be so inaccessible because you'd have to get diagnosed as having a disease, like a weakness disease, an endurance disorder, and then you'd have to go to a hospital to exercise. There's totally different ways of approaching kind of any kind of label around mental illness, and it can really help to then ditch that idea of like, oh, I need to recover from this bad thing. If you want to build some skills, you can identify with those skills, and we can build them forever, right? We don't reach like full drowning recovery, but we can get really good at swimming and like swimming and buy lots of swimsuits. It can be quite fun, but we don't have to like have this perfect fix of a thing we hate. So I find it much more helpful to take an approach like that to mental health. So that's why I often talk about mental fitness. Yeah, it's about growing things we want to grow. And when we take that approach, we're there now, right? Like the moment you sign up for a swimming lessons, you're a swimmer. If you want to build skills to have human experiences, great, you can do that, and you can do that forever. Cass, so I asked you to explain more about what you meant about your mind reassuring you. And so you said words of reassurance in my mind repeatedly. And so the thing I would ask there, because if that's the thing you're trying to fix, like, oh, these words shouldn't be there, can they be there? Yeah. So what? Like, because is it that you're afraid, oh, reassurance is bad, and if I'm reassuring myself, then I can't recover. I'm stuck with this. Oh no, I can't do this thing. Yeah, then making it okay for them to be there. Yeah, because you don't have to be reassured by a bunch of words. Just like if the brain was throwing up horrible things constantly, automatically, you also wouldn't have to put any validity or belief in them. So yeah, if the brain wants to like throw out a bunch of words, yeah, it can do that. Here's hoping. You said, I just close my eyes and think of all the bad stuff I consciously try not to think of. I don't know what that is in relation to. Luna the Gray said, have you got any tips for retaining autonomy in a relationship? I'm very concerned with my partner's feelings and find myself confessing to her when worried she won't like something I've done. Actually, so I'd be curious about why you describe that as retaining autonomy. But confessing compulsions are really common. And so yeah, have you explored not doing the confessing compulsions? What kind of difficult feelings come up? What kind of fears come up around that? That could be a great opportunity to look at those kind of fears or uncertainties you want to work on. But yeah, it will involve cutting out the compulsions. John. So do you have any tips on how to gently bring your attention back to the current moment? Sometimes I feel like my mind is always looking for things to be anxious about, and I struggle to focus. Yeah, so I think one of the things that's really insightful and I was going to say supportful. Let's make supportful a word. So what something supportful that you mentioned there, John, is just the gently part. So looking at how we can not judge the mind for wandering off is a really supportful skill for not having it wander off. Because it was useful for me to see that my brain loved compulsions or loves, like human brains love compulsions. They just want to control bad things, right? That's their job. They're like these guard dogs in our skull, just like looking for a bad thing to control. And like they're going to protect you. But they get hooked on it. It's a lot like any addiction. We're just like, I gotta have a bad thing because then we're gonna fix it and then we're gonna feel good. And so if we want to be focused and keep the brain in one place, and that's good, then, and fixing it wandering off is good, and like wandering off is bad, then the brain, because it loves compulsions, is going to wander off. Because then you're gonna fix it. It's giving you the opportunity to like, oh no, that you shouldn't do that. That's bad. I need to focus. Oh, okay, now I feel good. I'm focused. Right? Just like cleaning something. So it's gonna create the contamination, and then you get to clean it. And so if we make it not a contamination, if we make it okay, hey, I can wander off. Paradoxically, it becomes much easier to not wander off. But as long as it's a bad thing to fix, It's just gonna keep doing it. Yagoda, he said, I try to do the things I value, but everything feels so boring, fake, and forced. I try to accept it, but it's really sad and discouraging. Will life always be like that? So I'd be curious about a bunch of things going on there. But yeah, if you're checking, like if we're checking for a clean feeling, so clarity, kind of like connection, engagement, not being boring, like where you mentioned fake and forced, that suggests to me that there's a lot of checking, that there's a belief that there should be some other feeling. And when we approach it like that, it again becomes like a cleaning compulsion. Then we don't feel the clean feeling we think we should have. The reality is, you doing something can't be fake. Like that is you doing it. And so if we're in that checking, like, oh, I've got to do this and it's got to feel like me, that's like any classic OCD compulsion, and it's not going to feel like you. So there, I wouldn't look at what you're doing, but I would look at the, like as in the activity, I would look at the kind of the internal activities of the checking and judging, and like it should feel this way, because that, yeah, that can fuel quite the cycle of, right, oh, it's not right, it's not right, it's not me, it's fake, I've got to fix it. And it just goes and goes and goes. When it comes to doing things, kind of, I would say, cultivating happiness, it really helps to make a shift to seeing it as a practice, much more like taking care of a garden. Because if somebody went and watered their garden, would you ask them afterwards, like, oh, did that feel fake? Or did that feel like you? Did you feel bored? Or did you feel excited? I was just watering the garden. Like, it's useful to my pumpkin patch to water it. If I want big pumpkins of happiness later, I gotta water the garden. It doesn't really matter whether I see that as like fake or real or me or anything like that. I'm taking care of my garden. If I get caught up in like, did it feel like me to take care of my garden today? One, it's gonna not feel like that because I'm doing all of that checking, but also it's just not a useful kind of criteria to base caring for my garden on. You are a garden. Kareem said, you encourage us to give ourselves trust. My brain, however, gives me all convincing reasons to doubt myself. How can I give myself trust without trying to debate my brain that I just, oh, and he said, yeah, I should finish the question there. He said, how can I give myself trust without trying to debate my brain that I deserve to be trusted? So the reason I was laughing, because yeah, deserving, irrelevant. Again, yeah, if you're getting into a debate about am I deserving or not, am I clean or not, you will judge yourself as not. Trust is also something that happens with doubt. Trust is not, I am certain I will do the thing. No, because then we don't need trust. Trust is, I don't know what's going to happen, but I trust this guy to figure it out. There's something scary ahead, but I trust that guy to lead us. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm glad he's the one leading us. So trust is about doubt. Doubt is when we give trust to ourselves. But yeah, you won't have certainty about it. You will be uncertain and scared, and that's okay. Yeah, Eric, so continuing on the engaging with a thought, you said, is there a clear line between engaging with a thought and not? I find it so natural to pay attention to a thought that when I sit with it, I feel I'm still engaging on some level unnoticed. Yeah, so again, this like getting, like really trying to be certain about whether you're engaging with a thought or not. Is that because you're afraid if I'm engaging with a thought, that's a bad thing, that's going to lead to bad things? And I would just, like, trying to win that game, I would shift it to a completely different game. Yeah, if you engage with thoughts, if you don't engage with thoughts, what do you actually want to be giving your time and energy to in life? Because yeah, getting caught up in did I engage with thoughts or not is like, did I engage with a tree or not on the street? And then you'll be like, oh, well, like I kind of walked under that tree though. Is that engaging with that tree? Because like I got some shade on me. So then I was using that tree, but then I didn't walk near the other tree, but I purposely chose to not walk near the other tree. So does that mean I was ignoring the tree? Because is ignoring engaging with the tree? Right? All of that, you don't have to spend any time on that. If I'm out on the street, so where am I going? I want to go to the grocery store, obviously, to get donuts. So how I interact with the trees or the thoughts on the way to get donuts is fine, because I'm going to get donuts. Enjoy the donuts. Akib said, now I don't care if I get any thought and I don't have any obsessions, but still I'm getting anxiety. But it sounds like you are checking on a feeling. So you can bring the same skill to anxiety. So I don't know if you caught it. We were just talking about this at the very start. I was sharing about how any uncomfortable experience is really the same. So not differentiating between a thought I don't like, an obsession I don't like, an emotion I don't like. Those are just a thing you don't like and want to get rid of in your head. And so seeing they're the same, because if you cut out the compulsions around a thought, but then when there's a feeling you don't like, you're like, I got to go online and check for reassurance to get rid of this. That's still the same compulsions, right? And so can you have an uncomfortable experience and make it okay, right? So now, can anxiety be there? But seeing it's not about anxiety, it could be anything. Because also the brain will just keep moving. The brain just wants the compulsions. So it's going to keep moving to whatever gets you to do them. And so, yeah, you could be like, okay, I'm not going to do compulsions around anxiety now. But then it might jump to a physical sensation. But again, seeing, okay, this is another uncomfortable thing I want to control. And I don't have to. Street Fighter, hello? Dom said, is it good to speak from triggers, or does that reinforce the trauma pattern? Just feel like I'm going to die if I don't. I don't know exactly what you mean, Dom, by is it good to speak from triggers? But yeah, often, like it sounds like you brought up the trauma pattern. I don't know specifically what you're referring to, but it sounds like it is reinforcing that. And so that's an opportunity to have compassion, right? If we've had a really difficult experience, we touch those difficult feelings, we may feel like, oh no, I am under threat. I've got to do something with this. But yeah, and the brain just gets hooked on that, right? Because it's like, get rid of it. And so yeah, working with a skilled professional to help you like step into those feelings and see like, oh, actually I can have these feelings. Can be really useful. I often describe it like learning how to step into a Japanese onsen, like a hot spring bath. Because a hot spring bath feels so hot. So I know the first time I went to a hot spring bath, I would touch the water and be like, oh no, I'm going to die. I'm going to be boiled in this water. It felt too hot. And so I wouldn't get in. But the reality is if we touch it and we get in, it's actually really enjoyable. But yeah, our initial reaction is like, oh no, I can't touch that feeling, I will die. Yagoda, he said, do you know how to heal brain fog? It feels like my brain is working with 30% capacity. I cannot study, I forget words, and I'm a linguist. It feels like I have cotton wrapped around my brain. So actually brain fog, really related to what we were talking about earlier in terms of compulsions to check if something feels like me, like feels right, feels clean. Brain fog is a whole bunch of this feeling shouldn't be here. I should have this right feeling right now. And it's really common to experience what you mentioned there with words, because we're like, I attach my identity, like I am a linguist, I must remember words. Then the brain is very naturally going to be like, oh, I don't remember words, and snatch them away. So yeah, it could be really useful to explore compulsions going on around like judging those feelings. So yeah, could it be okay for that cotton wrapped around the brain to be there? Which yeah, can be really challenging at first. So again, yeah, working with somebody, following like a workbook or a program, but yeah, exploring the compulsions that we do around feelings in our head, right? Seeing like brain fog becomes just like a contamination feeling. We're like, oh, it feels contaminated. It shouldn't be there. The moment we start kind of withdrawing, if we're like, oh, I feel contaminated, so I don't want to contaminate things in my life, so I'm not going to do them, I'm going to withdraw, that just creates more contamination feeling, more brain fog, and so on. So another thing I always suggest to people when they're running into brain fog too, is that all of these tools that we talk about related to values are to help us not do things in our heads. Values are to get things outside of our heads, so we're not having to check with the brain. And so using these kinds of systems so that we can say, hey, actually, I don't need, if my brain feels like just cotton balls, just stuffed into my skull box today, that's fine, because how I do the things I do, my values, where I'm going, it's all outside of my head. I can look at, hey, here's what I'm going to give this person in this interaction, whether I have cotton balls in my head, whether it feels fake and boring or not, because this is what I'm going to give. And so these tools are to help us not have to be like checking those feelings, checking with our brain for permission to live. So yeah, using whatever supports are really going to help you not have to get into that checking can be really a really great support. Kesha said, I fear that something might go wrong or someone important, a coworker, will get angry if I don't know which direction I took in a situation. In the end, I just live in the way I do and not want to be stuck. So yeah, you're asking there if it's okay. And so there's one thing I would suggest is, yeah, just giving compassion to yourself. It's very natural that we worry about other people, we worry about coworkers, we don't want people to get angry with us. So yeah, often maybe we've had some experiences in life where, yeah, we made a mistake and people were really critical or judged us or really harsh to us. And so there'll be that part of us inside of us that doesn't want that to happen again. And that's just, yeah, really understandable. Then, yeah, when you're asking, like, is that okay? Look, well, is that what you'd like to do? Where you said, yeah, I just live the way I do. Yeah. Can you give yourself that trust to take a step forward? And yeah, you'll explore and you'll see what's useful to you. Yagoda, thank you so much for the donation and the happy cat animation. I appreciate the support and yeah, you're sharing your questions today. Rostam, yeah, he said, how can one make big decisions like divorcing or not in a healthy way? My brain wants to sit down or walk and think and get to a decision once and for all, but I end up being in my head more confused. So there are so many decisions in life that are really complex, and even how we think about them on any particular day, right, can change the conclusion we might arrive at. So something I always suggest to people is just exploring first, actually, how you'll decide. Because if we don't, what we tend to do is we go, oh, here's an uncertainty. I'll just think about it and hope I get some kind of magical feeling at some point. And then I'll go, oh, okay, I have the feeling, special feeling, therefore I know the decision. But of course, our brains don't like to give us that magical feeling because brain just wants, yeah, like this, oh, this is a great problem. Let's think about it. let's go and think and think and think and think and think. So exploring, instead of jumping into the, oh, okay, like let's go think about the problem, actually exploring first, how do you make a decision about this problem? And yeah, there you may talk to other people that you know who have made similar decisions, uh, finding some kind of criteria that are going to help you, maybe from multiple different places, supports in your life and so on, to then decide how you'll decide. That's an approach I find really helpful. Still, then we have to explore and decide using that, but at least we have an understanding of, okay, and it might not be an absolutely certain, but at least we know, okay, here are some situations and some criteria I might use to make this decision, rather than looking for the special feeling who's going to give us permission. Lily. Yes, is noticing something constantly more of an obsession or a compulsion? For example, noticing a one certain thing on everyone's face, not engaging with the thought and forgetting about it eventually, but then noticing again and again every time you look at someone and feeling guilt. Since it's visually triggered, it seems very hard to deprive it of attention completely and find the right point to disengage. Yeah, I wouldn't worry about the, like, is an obsession or a compulsion. I like to just look at like how we want to spend our time and energy. And then, yeah, recognizing, of course, we have all sorts of things we might do automatically. And so, yeah, their compassion, I find, is the useful approach, because we'll do something automatically, and then we'll for sure do a bunch of compulsions, like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. Oh, why did I do that? What's going on there? And all of that stuff creates more struggle. So seeing like, okay, if that's a thing like that I'll notice right now, but yeah, being able to, you can ask yourself right now, like, do you want to spend time on noticing that? And if you don't, then hey, yeah, the brain is going to keep doing it, and you have an opportunity to go, oh, okay, brain, I get it. You like to point out, because the brain is really good at pointing out wrong things. Brain might go, oh, that's a wrong thing. And then we go, hey, brain, congratulations, you're so good at that. And what I'd rather do is this. And just starting to show it, hey, like yeah, brain, if you want to do that, go for it. But I'd rather be doing this. And you get to take it there. Yeah, allowing, our brains are these funny organs. You can really have to see that they're a lot like stomachs. Like stomachs make weird noises and things like that. And if we try to control it, we're like, don't make a weird noise. I don't want it to make any kind of strange things right now. That can create a lot of stress that will make our stomachs do strange things. But if we can allow it to just do the things it does, because it's an organ, it's a human organ, then it can free us up a lot more. Eric, yeah, he said, how has your relationship to time changed in your fitness journey? I notice myself rushing through certain parts of my day, chores, etc. Maybe it's slowing down when we want to speed up. Exactly, yeah, just what you mentioned there. I like to describe it as feeling like my brain pushing me. And so now I like to play with it. So if I notice like that rush, like, oh, I gotta get this done, we gotta like get onto some other thing, right under that I can see like, oh, there's things I'm trying to control, or there's feelings I don't want to feel here. And then I'll purposely hang out longer. And there's so many different ways you can practice that. Even if one that I really liked is that I noticed in like conversations or something, like whether it was a topic I didn't like, or I was like, oh, I should be somewhere else right now. I should be talking to someone else right now, or something like that. It really helped me to then ask that person another question. So if my brain is like, we shouldn't be in this conversation, we gotta go, then I'm like, oh, okay, tell me more about your pet rat. And just sit there and make the brain squirm and enjoy it. We don't have to, it's always trying to push us around. We don't have to let it puppet us around anymore. BBB. You said, do you believe all rumination is a compulsion? As in it's something you can control? And if so, how do you begin to unpack what feels like an automatic process to start learning non-rumination skills? So actually the post, I enjoyed like a summer break for a couple weeks from posting on Instagram. The first post that's going to be up is on people turning rumination into this contamination. I like to look at how I spend time and energy in my head, because there's all sorts of, we will use rumination to refer to like a very particular, basically set of thinking practices we don't like. Like, oh, I'm ruminating on this bad thing, therefore it's ruminating. But then we'll often, say like, oh, well, like planning meals in my head. Well, I like that. I like to get it right. And then we'll be like, that's not ruminating. That's planning. I find it useful to cluster it all together. There's just time spent in head. The reality is, as humans, we will spend a lot of time in our heads. And all I like to look at is that I'm reducing the amount of time spent in my head. There could be many things that I might automatically jump to in my head. And if I have that awareness, celebrating that awareness. We don't have to go, oh, like I'm ruminating, that's bad, I'm never gonna recover, this is terrible, I'm making my mental health worse, rah. And that's where we're turning it into that contamination. If we notice ourselves ruminating, that's wonderful. That's an amazing awareness to have. It's really valuable. And then in the next moment, because now we've brought ourselves to the present, we're aware of what's going on. In the next moment, we can choose to do things differently. And if we want to give our attention to something not problem solving in our heads, then we can do that. And so, yeah, I just always look at that. Julieta said, my OCD thoughts and what is have morphed into facts, and the insight has been decreased. And it makes me scared as my thoughts are to harm my family. Like, I know these are just thoughts, but what if not? Oh, Julieta, it sounds like, I think that's the end of the question. It sounds like, yeah, there are a lot of compulsions going on there around thoughts. So yeah, if you haven't explored like learning about how to cut out compulsions and things like that, yeah, it could be great to connect with a skilled professional and start learning those skills, or grab a good workbook and just start learning, different skills for interacting with stuff in our heads. Harm thoughts, that's never the only set of compulsions people are running into. So also I'd look at, right, like expanding how we approach it. And seeing that kind of stuff is actually maybe the outcome that we've kind of very logically kind of taught the brain to like control and prevent things we don't want to have happen. So it's just doing its job. But yeah, learning how to teach it some new tricks can be really useful. Piku Husuli said, are you familiar about the way Eckhart Tolle teaches mindfulness? Do you find it useful? No, I don't know how. I know who he is, but I have not read any of his books, so I'm not familiar with how he teaches mindfulness. Karim said, working on the fundamental practices of mindfulness, meditation, and not doing compulsions works well for me. Working on changing beliefs, however, usually pushes me into rumination and compulsions. Yeah, what if you don't have to change those beliefs right now? Pom Pom Kitty, hello, welcome. Khan said, I have to share this great news with you. I first emailed you last winter when I was hopeless in life and my focus was completely scattered, which caused me to keep failing my university exam. I implemented your book and courses since then, and today I had a great exam. I'll be returning to school now, and you had a major influence on my recovery. Oh, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Oh, Khan, thank you. Thank you for sharing with that. I mean, you did all the work. I'm pretty sure I did no exam this week. So congratulations to you. Yeah, it's an honor to be part of that journey. But yeah, really celebrate how you took these skills and put them into practice. So enjoy heading back to school. Yeah, congratulations. Piku Husuli said, why thinking is always seen as bad? If we don't think, we would, for example, not be able to find what our values are. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with thinking. Thinking is an amazing superpower. I don't know if you caught earlier, I was talking about laser vision. Laser vision is incredible. But if you don't learn how to turn your laser vision on and off, you could go into a bakery and get, yeah, like a really amazing ice cream cone, and then you look at it, boom, melted. Kimberly, he said, there's a meme that says, I'm stuck somewhere between I need to save and you only live once. What's your approach for balancing these? I wouldn't see them as conflicting. Yeah, when it comes to finances, a values-based approach, really, really helpful. Really understanding that we both can nourish ourselves by saving and kind of supporting ourselves financially and making like smart decisions where like we might notice the brain go, oh, like I need to go and get this thing or I want this thing. And we can be like, oh, I see that. But actually, I know nourishing myself and taking care of myself means I don't have to spend money on that right now. But then also, because we could go, I'm afraid, right? We could get like into like kind of like this terror mode, like, oh, I can't spend any money at all. But then also, then we're also not nourishing ourselves. We might be avoiding things that actually would really help us live. And yeah, because there isn't some kind of special magic place in the future. If we think like, oh, I've just gotta get there, and then everything is gonna be good. So also recognizing, yeah, not only do we, you could say only live once, but you could also say we only live today. So it's both looking at, yeah, how am I going to nourish myself and do things I value today? How am I going to nourish and value my garden 5, 10, 20 years from now? So yeah, that's why I like the idea of thinking of ourselves like a garden. Because yeah, even when you're taking care of your garden this year, even when you're doing things in the garden today, you also really need to be aware of how you're caring for the land for decades and generations. Because yeah, if we just approach the land as like, oh, I'm just gonna grow some vegetables here once and then I'm out of here, you'll be very hungry next year. M. Pilgrim said, yeah, what criteria guides how you choose your travel destinations? Yeah, so I look at what I value. Like I'm planning a bunch of things for the new year, very much looking at skills I want to practice. So where am I going to go to meditation retreats? I'm going to Spanish school shortly next month. So yeah, what am I building that's useful? Because even learning Spanish is because the kind of second most popular edition of my book is the Spanish version. So we have a lot of community members who speak Spanish. So I was like, okay, let's learn Spanish. Like that's relevant to our community. So yeah, I look at skills I want to build and then kind of impact. So again, so I'm looking at doing a bunch of workshops in the coming year. And so then I look at, oh yeah, where are there community members or organizations I've connected with before where we can bring some people together so people they don't have to travel to me. It's much better for the environment if I travel to the place and then there's lots of people there. And so yeah, that's how I approach it. Yep. And then I also look at are there places where I don't have to where that aren't going to be super cold or super hot? Where it's just I can just be in a place, no air conditioning, no heating. I look for that too. And so and hiking. I guess that's kind of skills. But I do plan around some hiking trips too. So yeah, really thinking about spending time in nature is another element I look at. Hi, all, welcome. You made it. You said you kind of unlapsed. Congratulations. Stars and flowers. Srabjot, yeah, you said, how can I join your Discord group? Send me a DM or an email. So there's a contact form on my website, markfreeman.ca, or if you're on Instagram, just send me a DM there and I'll send you an invite link. I know there were a bunch of people who sent requests for the Discord server earlier this week. I will get to them today. It was a busy week, so I'll have time to answer those questions today. Lucas, he said, any ideas on how to pick a direction professionally when I really don't know what I want? It's hard to just pick something because you can't just try out a job or studies. Kind of true, right? Yeah, we can't, like you're not gonna try out being a surgeon, but you can go and talk to a surgeon and find out like, hey, like what's it like being a surgeon? And starting to understand that. And so, yeah, finding those ways that you can learn about some possibilities. There are different ways you can even like just try kind of industries by just, yeah, whether it's, you know, volunteering in something that's closely connected or just going to different events to see if you kind of connect with the kinds of things that people are talking about or exploring. So for instance, if somebody wanted potentially to get into, say, the tech industry or something like that, there are so many tech meetups and networking events that are totally accessible to meet and talk with all sorts of people that are doing some kind of job or working at some kind of company you might be interested in. So finding those ways that you can explore it, but ultimately seeing that, hey, this wilderness of life, we don't know. We could be so convinced that we're going to do one kind of particular profession, or we want to work with one kind of company or something like that, or organization. And then we jump into it, and who knows what could happen. The world, all sorts of strange things can happen in the world, all sorts of unusual things can happen at that organization. So yeah, we need to just give ourselves that support to explore as well. We're not like making some kind of right, perfect decision. We look at what we need to take care of our garden. We look at what we like, what helps us thrive, and then we guess. Julietta said, what if I know what I should do, but my thoughts speak something different? I feel guilty when I'm doing what I know I have to do, but my thoughts are saying other things, feeling like I'll feel regret. Yeah, so again, they're really, because thoughts can do anything. Thoughts are like just a random person shouting in the street. So right now it sounds like you're putting a lot of importance and attaching a lot of meaning to thoughts. So yeah, it could be useful to explore learning some mental health skills to just start put some separation between you and the brain stuff. Joe Panzer, hello. Thanks for joining us. Great to see you. Yeah, Mike, you said that, yeah, you said thanks for the clarification on rumination. My thought process was that I should always be monitoring whether or not I'm ruminating, which now as I type it is a check-in compulsion. Yeah, we turn rumination into that contamination. And we're just like constantly, is it clean? Is it clean? Is it, oh, I'm not clean. Yeah, we don't have to monitor it. Millie, yeah, I see Millie mentioning suicide there. Yeah, really important to go and yeah, talk to a professional, to work with somebody around that. Yeah, it's totally possible to learn, yeah, great mental health skills and how to handle these kinds of experiences. But yeah, getting some support and help with that can be really useful. So yeah, please do get some support and help there. Jagoda, he said, what do you think about love and long-term relationships? How to make them work? Sometimes it's so difficult to love someone when you know all their imperfections, when they annoy you, etc. So love and relationships are work. Yeah, you are gonna know all of their imperfections. You're gonna have experiences that are difficult and challenging. And so we've been talking about right, boredom, feeling fake, brain fog. I know these are all about like things should feel right. Right. And so yeah, it can create a lot of challenges if in a relationship we're like, well, that other person should be perfect and all of the feelings in the relationship should be right. Can create a lot of challenges. So yeah, let's say all of the different things you brought up, there's some common threads running through them. So yeah, it could be useful to, so a thing I would always ask people in that kind of situation is, what else do you like to get right? What are you actually getting right? And you're like, yes, I'm getting this right. Because that may actually be the useful place to explore learning how to not get things right. So Nicole, hello. Hiking is amazing. And Mike, yeah, the desert, please. The desert's great for heating and being cool. Uh, the brother, you said, are you familiar with Michael Greenberg's approach to recovery? Yeah, but you just want a yes or no, a yes or no answer? Dr. Voiceless. He said, wanting to be in a relationship after being single for a long time. What's your take on that? Should I act on my desire? Does it have to be in that context of like, oh, it's a desire? Because you could say, if I don't eat for a long time, and then I may desire some food, going like, oh, but I'm acting on desire. And so I would take a step back from that and look at, well, but what's useful to me? And so of course, if I haven't eaten in a long time, there might be like feelings and like cravings and all sorts of things like that. But I can notice that can be there. And also I can recognize that, oh, I like nourishing myself, and nourishing myself is something I value doing. I'm going to go and do that. Also, there are some feelings there, and I understand where those came from. So yeah, it can be both. Mike, you said, I've been thinking, and I understand that wanting to get rid of OCD makes it stay. Yeah, and that fighting isn't the answer. The key is acceptance. And my belief is this takes time. Any advice on acceptance? Can you, so one, let's say, I'd be curious what you mean by like any advice on acceptance. Like what, that's like a very broad question. And so I'd be curious, like, yeah, what would the advice on acceptance get you? So that'd be one thing I'd be curious about. The other thing that I always bring up around acceptance is that, and so I have a video on this where we do this thing sometimes because we're looking for this solution to fix a thing. So we think, oh, I've got to accept a thing. And it's like we're like picking up like, oh, I'm gonna accept this marker, or I'm accepting it as this like forced thing we're gonna do to stuff. But the reality is like, people are very good at acceptance already. I bet like everybody on here is extremely skilled at acceptance. An example of that would be if you were walking outside, say you're walking to the store and you pass a tree and just pass it. You didn't stop to do anything to the tree. You didn't have to stop to accept it. You didn't have to stop to do compulsions around it. You didn't have to do anything with it. You knew there was a tree there. That's acceptance. There's nothing you have to do to practice acceptance. And so in some ways you could approach acceptance as an undoing. We're always looking for like, oh, I've got to accept this feeling. I've got to do something with it. But no, like it's there. It's there. Like that's enough. It's there. And you can do what you want to do now. Acceptance is not a cleaning and scrubbing, trying to get rid of it. Oh, I'm glad it's been helpful. No, it's not possible to ask too many questions. Thank you for asking questions and sharing. The brother. Oh, you said, I wanted to see what you thought about it. The line between thinking we can control and can't control seems blurry sometimes. Yeah, and so, I mean, it, it's really useful to recognize, uh, yeah, like so I have a video from like way back years ago on understanding mental compulsions and explaining it that, yeah, like how we spend our time and energy in our head is no different than how we spend our time and energy outside of our head. And it's really useful to recognize that. Like an example like I used in that video is like, if we're looking up something online for reassurance, we might recognize that as like, oh, that's a physical compulsion. I'm checking something. But if we do that in our heads, that's the same. That's like me opening up a browser in my head and like looking for this thing to get reassurance. And so really starting to see like those are the same. However, we're just like physically, we're like always doing physical things, and a lot of them can be very automatic. We're also always going to be doing physical things in our brains. Like it's always going to be doing stuff. A lot of it's very automatic. And so, yeah, there is a journey of learning how to change what we do. But people can get into a lot of compulsions very similar to sensory motor, like say breathing or swallowing compulsions, but also with stuff in their heads where they're taking just a kind of normal, natural practice that they don't have to touch, like breathing, and then going, oh, I've got to get this right. I've got to get this perfect. And then it can fuel a lot of compulsions. So yeah, really watching out for turning rumination into contamination. We're like, I've got to clean it out perfectly. At the same time, yeah, like I found it so valuable to explore meditation practices and learn that I didn't have to do stuff in my head. And so, yeah, meditation was very valuable for learning how to, I would say, like make the brain sit down and shut up. But at the same time, it's like teaching a dog. I can teach my brain how to sit down and shut up. Also, I know that it's a dog and it's going to constantly run off and chase things and bark at things and sniff things. And so it's always both. Yeah, there are, because if we have a dog that's constantly running around and creating chaos, yeah, then it's probably really useful to learn how to get that dog to sit down. But if we then get obsessed with like, oh, a hair moved on my dog, oh, when will this dog learn to sit? Then we've taken it to an extreme that's going to be very frustrating. Joy Penze, a social question for you. You said, funny that. I have a friend who only seems to speak to me when they're having problems with their partner. Once this passes, they don't talk for weeks. My urge is to blow up and confront them, but I imagine this is probably counterproductive. How do you balance being chill and calm with calling people out when it's needed? Yeah, so I find it there. It's like articulating what we like to do, and so you can do that. You can tell the person, "Hey, I'd love to talk to you when you don't have a problem with your partner." Because we can also approach things like that with compassion, understanding that person probably, right? Yeah, they're doing it as a compulsion, but they may also have learned to only build social connection around problems. They may be having problems with their partner just so they can talk to you. Because That's how they learn social interaction happens. Like you need a problem to talk to other people. And if you don't have a problem, you can't have a relationship. That might also be why they keep having problems in their romantic relationship. So yeah, it's very common that people have learned to build social interaction around problems. So yeah, they might also really enjoy learning that they don't have to do that. But yeah, that's something we don't have to blow up around it. We can articulate or like invite them out. But yeah, even saying like, oh, like we can talk about things other than what's happening with your partner. Yeah, that's a very doable thing. I hope their relationship is going well. Lily, is the final goal of recovery to have a completely quiet mind and always live in the moment? No. Even when not ruminating, I feel how my mind is constantly doing something, humming a song over and over. Yeah, just like stomachs. Stomachs do a lot of things, right? I don't have to have a quiet stomach. It's just an organ. I wouldn't look at recovery as like fixing anything like that at all. I describe great mental health as the practice of being ourselves while having any thought or feeling. So yeah, I don't have to do anything with my brain, with my mind at all. It can do whatever it wants, and I'm going to do whatever I want. The result of taking an approach like that is that we often then do teach it how to sit down and shut up. But if we're like, you've got to sit down and shut up, then it probably won't. It's just going to keep on being this little chaotic puppy. But yeah, definitely, it can really help to even like ditch, like when you say like a final goal of recovery, it can really help to ditch recovery. We've done this many times before on Brain Tech Support Live, but I don't think we've done it in a couple months. So this is where we congratulate everybody on being fully 100% recovered. Everybody, congratulations. You have all, there is a certificate on my Instagram channel. If you go there, you'll see it because it's a very beautifully crafted, well-drawn certificate of recovery. You can find it there on my channel. Please download it, frame it, put it on a wall. You are now 100% fully recovered. And now that you are recovered, and there's nothing you need to fix in your brain, you can build and grow skills in your life. And you can do the things you value and just keep on growing them. And you don't have to be perfect at them. You can keep learning and growing just like we would with any kind of physical fitness practice. We can keep getting better at swimming through emotions and thoughts in the world. But yeah, really, congratulations, everybody. I raise some mate to you. You are fully recovered now. And so you don't have to chase and clean anything in the mind anymore. Now you can live. And yeah, living is a challenging experience, and we'll keep on supporting ourselves and getting better and better at that. Nicole, yeah, he said, I recently moved, but I'm struggling to stay in my new place. I feel like I'm using my work life as an excuse as why I'm preferring to be at my parents' where I feel at home. How to not avoid the change. Yeah, so how would you like to make your new home cozy? How would you like to make your new home a place where you're going to spend more time? And recognizing, yeah, it's totally understandable that it's a process, right? That it's something that can be gradual. But yeah, are there things you'd like to do with your new home that like would make it yours? That's something I like to do because I change places all the time, right? So I'm very intentional about, like this is my home now. Let's make it a home, even if I'm only going to be there a couple nights. Dr. Voiceless, he said, I might get selected for veterinary science because of my rank in an exam. Great. Yeah, he said, I'd love to be a vet and to treat animals, but I'm almost afraid of all animals. Should I choose that degree and face my fear? So I wouldn't base it around fear, right? Like in either direction, like, avoiding because of fear, or like I should do this to face fear. No, like we don't have to put fear at the center. And that is in both directions. We don't have to do something just because we're facing a fear. And we don't have to run away because of a fear. So yeah, I would look at like, what do you value doing? Because yeah, there's always going to be different fears Just like, yeah, if we're gonna commit to a relationship, we might have a bunch of fears about, committing to that relationship or what could happen in the future. But we make the decision based on what we want to grow and build. So yeah, what do you want to grow and build? Because then we can look at, hey, if I'm going to grow and build this, then I want to learn how to be around lots of different animals. And then you approach it as learning because it's useful to what you want to do, not because you're afraid of it. Yeah, have fun growing and building. Louis, thank you. I hope you're having a nice day too. So I'm recovering, but I'm struggling because I spent all my time in my head ruminating about ruminating in recovery. Yeah, it feels like a trap. Any advice? Exactly. This is why, yeah, it's useful to learn how to not ruminate, but if it becomes this thing we need to fix, it's just a one-way ticket to ruminating. Uh, and so, yeah, I hope so. You probably posted that before I awarded everybody their recovery certificate. So now I know, of course, you've received your 100% fully recovered certificate, so you don't have to worry about recovery anymore. I would look at, yeah, what are those things you really want to be doing in life? And could you want to have ruminating while you do them? Could you want to ruminate in amazing places, with amazing people, with things you've always wanted to do? Could it be okay to bring rumination along with you? Kind of like this monster that's always hanging out there? Yeah, what if it was okay for the monster to be there? If it wasn't a thing you had to fix? So Robjot, yeah, you said, can excessive consumption of social media, YouTube, vlogs, reels be seen as a compulsive behavior? 100%. My brain doesn't know how much is too much. So what I always suggest doing here, what I found really helpful, was tying it to action. So if I'm about to bake some cookies, maybe I'm gonna watch a video on the recipe that I'm about to bake, right? So I'm watching a video to take action. If I am gonna do some kind of mental health exercise, maybe I'll watch a video on that exercise, and then I'm gonna do that exercise. But just like physical fitness, I'm not going on to just like watch somebody else do back squats. I'm going on to be like, oh, okay, that's how I adjust my form when I do the back squat. Okay, now we're going to the gym and we're gonna do back squats. So tie it to action. If there's no action, maybe you don't need to be there. Wessel, thank you for stopping by today. Have a great day. And the brother, thank you for joining and sharing. Dr. Voices said, for improving health, do you believe in a diet, discipline, or intuitive eating? Neither of those. I believe in nourishing myself with the energy I need to do the back squats and other, like I have a very active life, so I need energy. So I don't leave that up to intuition, because I would not trust my gut or intuition with anything. I look at that's math equations, but yeah, looking at like a diet or discipline, no, there's no, I look at how much fuel do I need to run this rocket, and then I make sure I get that fuel. But there's all sorts of different ways to get that fuel. Matt said, how to tell the difference from being actually sick to just being sick from anxiety. I feel like it's hard to tell the difference. Yeah, so I experienced anxiety very physically. I would be like, I'm not anxious. And then after a thing that was kind of objectively stressful, I would just get sick. It was like I was so bought into or committed to ignoring emotions that my body had to get my attention by making me sick. And so, yeah, so I wouldn't separate those as though like, oh, there's being sick and being sick from anxiety. Like, sick is sick. But then what I would look at, if you know that things like anxiety are having that kind of impact, how do we start to work on what's creating the anxiety, cutting out those kind of compulsions, learning how to have emotions so they're not needing to come out in that kind of physical way. There's a lot of stuff upstream. to look at that can be really useful. Millie. Yeah, so Millie, uh, it sounds like these are the kinds of things that are just going to be really useful to get support and then start working with a skilled professional on learning how to interact with these things differently. Because yeah, you're describing a compulsion there. Like so you're doing compulsions and then drawing some really unhelpful conclusions from the compulsions. So yeah, it'll be really useful to start working with a skilled professional and getting some support. But yes, a t-shirt that says 100%, probably like 110% recovered would be fun. Joe Penzer. Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, he said, I want to make an online dating profile again, but have been putting it off for months. Do I just do it now, even though I don't feel like ready for that? My pictures aren't right, etc., just to do it all wrong? Yeah, so a dating profile, so for everybody, a dating profile is a great way to practice all the skills we always talk about, like being ourselves. We can practice being ourselves, not needing to get caught up in lots of trying to control what other people are going to think. So, a dating profile. This is also where you'll see compulsions. A lot of compulsions are so normalized in society, and that doesn't make them healthy. If you go on a dating profile and you're like, I've got to get this picture right, and like taking angles and like using pictures that aren't really you, and saying things that you think somebody wants to hear, but it's not what you really want to express, yeah, that's gonna be really unhealthy. So learning how to, yeah, approach a dating profile in a healthy way. Also, not be like constantly checking, but like, oh, I'm gonna put up a dating profile. Here's when I'm gonna go online. And I'm gonna make it about what I give, not about like, oh, I'm trying to get something. Really useful opportunity to explore skills. Yeah, you won't feel ready before exploring them, but yeah, it can be really fun to practice all of the things we talk about. Mike, he said trying to fix things in our brain's body that we don't like is the illness. And in trying to fix them, we make ourselves sick by focusing on them. They would pass normally, but our focus prevents it. Yeah, it's really fascinating to see all of the weird physical things that can happen around this stuff. Who knows what's going on inside of the body? Nicole, that's great. You're getting some furniture and seeing how you can move it around and make it work. Smith points out, I know lots of people who live at home with their parents. Most humans like to live with other humans. Luca said, I once asked for a link to your Discord server. You sent it, but I waited too long and it expired. I tried it again through the form on your website, but haven't received anything yet. But I think, did you send it recently? Because if you just sent it like last week or this week, as I was saying, it's been quite busy. So I'll get to the request today. Bagel, bagel, bagel. Welcome. I know people doing math this early in the morning. No wonder things don't fit. Oh, Mike, thank you so much for the donation. Oh, I appreciate this. Like you said, I plan to be leaving the watching and following and learning about OCD behind soon. I appreciate all your help. Oh, hey, it's great you're seeing how you can make it useful to you, and yeah, and something you can step away from when it's not useful anymore. Thank you so much for the donation. I appreciate it. Gary, he said, in recovery, I've experienced thoughts that used to trigger me, but no longer produce anxiety. But I still feel the impulse to act on them, maybe out of habit. Any advice along these lines? Yeah, it is the one really, really common. And yeah, like you see, it never like it was never about the topic or the anxiety. One thing that helped me was the brain just likes to do things. And so yeah, it'll be up like, oh, this is a thing we used to do things. Let's do a thing. And so yeah, just noticing that I'd be like, and just helping it see, oh, okay, I get it. Yeah, that was a sport we used to play. Now we play a different sport. But yeah, the brain always remembers like kind of the reflex we used to have around that sport. And that's okay. Yeah, right? It doesn't have to go away. It can be there because you can make choices. So yeah, that can always kind of be there. And that's fine. Smith Broccoli said, oh, I always thought it was good to trust my gut. Can you elaborate as to why one shouldn't trust it? If you can't trust your gut, how does one make a decision? We make decisions with values, with objective data, with understanding what actually works well. And yeah, like trusting it, because if we trust our gut, pretty quick and easy way to end up doing a lot of compulsions. Yeah, Joe Pante. He said their dating profiles are like a microcosm for all the compulsions about controlling people's perceptions of you. It's crazy when you think about it. And yeah, if you think about it, but we don't have to think about it too much. It's just a great opportunity to, yeah, be ourselves and explore what we want to give. And we can do that. Yeah. So let's head out into our weeks, shall we? We'll wrap things up here. Let's head out into our weeks in practice, being ourselves and giving things we want to give. Whether we do that with a dating profile or we do that with anything, yeah, it's an opportunity to be ourselves in the world. And we can give instead of how, right, we're always trying to like get stuff. Oh, Lewis, you go to thank you. Thank you, both of you. You go to thank you for the donation. Kimberly, Mike, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for the support and donations today. Oh, Sherpenzi, you're welcome. Zarabja, I see you had one more question here. I said, oh, how to stop overreacting to someone's anger. I tend to hold resentment for days, and people around me often get affected because of it. It also gets me to do more compulsions on things that are unrelated. Yeah, I don't know. There was a question. We were talking about this earlier. Yeah, really just starting to notice that, right? The anger is it is a bunch of compulsions. And then, of course, it creates more uncertainty, more compulsions. And so often, yeah, when we see it coming up, starting to recognize it as it trying to control a thing and looking at, oh, like, why am I trying to control this? And looking at how we can give compassion to that we don't have to run off with those compulsions because we know once we start doing those compulsions, they're just going to create even more situations and more pain and suffering for us. But being able to see that and give that a hug, that part of us that goes, oh, this is bad, we need to fix it, we need to control it. Being able to understand, oh, I see where that's coming from. But I know that what I think of as controlling right now would only create more suffering and more pain, right, for myself and for other people. So yeah, let's step into the week with that awareness. Yeah, we can give compassion to that younger self with us. We know why they're trying to control things. But we can show them how to do things differently. So let's do that. So yeah, thank you everybody so much for coming together today, for sharing, yeah, about what your brain is doing and what you're exploring. And yeah, I hope as you're stepping into the week ahead that things are easy for you and kind. Yeah. Okay. All right. I'll talk to everybody later. Have a great start to the week.